Brunswick-Glynn County Joint Water Sewer Commission meeting for Thursday, July 20th, 2017 will come to order. We'll do the following things. We'll have an invocation given by Commissioner Harvey, and then I will lead us in the pledge. If you will join us.
Stand and bow your heads. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day, because this is a day that you have made and we will rejoice and be glad in it. Thank you for giving us the fortitude and giving us the mindset to move this organization in the right way it should be done. Father, bless all the ones who are in harm's way. Give them safe refuge and bring them back safely to our shores here in this great country that we live in. And Father, bless that we go forth, do great things for this organization, and come out and make great decisions to move it forward. These things we ask in your Son, Jesus' name. Amen.
Okay. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Do you have anyone for public comment?
But we do. We have Mr. Brian Ellen regarding the sewer bill.
Please come forward.
First of all, I want everybody to give me a second, because the reason I'm basically here and recognizing everything is I recently had I got cancer, and I have been at MD Anderson in Houston. So with that, this has been going on a long time, but I guess while I was working, which I owned Milliken Eye Center, I was part owner, but because of the sickness, I had to sell my shares basically. And I'm basically unemployed at this point because of that. But with that, the treatment's doing very well, and life is much more important than work when it comes to the whole thing. But I live at 2624 Oriole Street, and I bought a home across the street that was a burned down jalopy that was there. I kind of did this is way back about 4 or 5 years ago, and I did a public service by buying the property, and then I ended up building a house on it, so I have a house at 2624 Oriole Street and 2625 Oriole Street. I have a bill last month from 2625 of $11.39. And I have a bill for my home, which is 2624, I own both, Oriole Street, of $289.77. This has been going on about 4 years. I have a pool that I put in about 4 years ago. And my problem with everything is that I'm being charged on the sewer part as the water use. I have a pool, which I brought pictures if need be. I have a clear, I don't have any trees over me or anything. The pool gets real hot. I have to run water into the pool every day and delete water out of the pool every day to make it where it's comfortable, or it's a hot tub. I have a hot tub also, which is cooler than the pool when you don't change the water. I also take bags of ice. Every day I freeze water and I put bags of ice in the pool to make it where it's comfortable, because that's the whole point of the pool. My problem is that water is not going through the sewer system. And I'm paying 5 times for the sewer part of that water. And I have it where it's drained, and I drain it out. I have pictures of that, and it goes to where you can take a hose, and I use it, so I circulate that water onto my lawn and my neighbor's lawn. Every day, that little water, which instead of using, and I have an irrigation system, but I'm not using it because I get my own water from the pool. Now, this is a low bill. I'm just letting you know, I've had 500, 600, 400, and when I was making money, I didn't care. But I'm not making money, and I think this is a little bit absurd to have $11 bill at one place and $300 every month or $400, and it's not. And my answer from in there was I could get an irrigation meter and pay $4,500, which obviously is across the street, and I didn't pay a nickel when I built the house, which was, it was done 2 years ago. I built that house. It took me 1 year and 4 months with the frame, because I don't have to get into home life of what's going on, but I own that property, and that bill was $11. I don't have $4,500 for irrigation for a water meter, which I don't think I've overpaid enough over 4 years. Could you imagine what that water bill should have been at $11 or $12? I'm paying $300 and $400 and not using the sewer. And my answer from the Brunswick Water is that there's really nothing that you could do. It's an assumed use, the sewer. That to me just is a terrible term, and that's actually what's written. He said, it says that it's an assumed expense that goes through the sewer system. So I get charged enormous amounts of money for something that's not used at all. I'm paying for it. I think that's a disgrace to anybody that has a pool or has to do that. So I have a choice of shutting down my pool or paying an astronomical water bill for the sewer, not the water. I understand the water. And I asked for help. I said, is there any way you could help me make a payment system? There was nothing. You have to pay it up front. And in the last 4 months, I spent $123,000 out of pocket for medical treatment with health insurance that we don't need to get into healthcare reform. Out of pocket so I could be standing on this other thing. I'm doing very well. I hope that I didn't offend anybody or said anything that's, I just am a little bit, I think this is absurd to pay for something. So you know what it's like? It's like having electricity, and then they say, if you want a TV, you have to pay extra. Yeah, I mean, so you could use that electricity on the TV. There is no difference in this, where you tell me that I gotta pay for 6 times, 5 times more for sewer that I don't touch. Pretty crazy. And I don't have an answer. I hope that someone's gonna call me, because all it is an assumed expense, and it's silly to have an assumed expense. And we shouldn't have got all these geniuses and everything like that, and that work in the water department, and that's the way it is. It's just something that's wrong. So anybody have anything to say to me?
The only comment I can make is that I know what you're saying. There is some absolute truth to what you're saying, except for short of metering the portion that is being used into the pool. If you take the meter that's supplying your household, normally a residential meter, even in commercial businesses, if there's not a separate irrigation meter, we don't have any choice without any other data to confirm what you're saying. I mean, I know you got a pool out there, but if you call around to other utilities and other cities, other communities, they're living by those same set of rules, because you need a means to justify giving a discount to a customer.
Well, it's not necessarily, I didn't even recognize and know that there was a pool fill every year, which I have to do because it's a liner pool, and there was a storm and I had to get the liner redone because the hurricane got, so I'm asking for that too, but that's over there, and I got to fill out that form. But I think there should be something done for me, because 4 years ago when I put the pool in, they had to come and do the meter, because it was a different meter, because I also built a pool house back there. So it had to all been redone. Somebody should have mentioned to me about an irrigation meter. It's not, I don't know about these things. It's just not, and now I'm stuck paying $4,500. I know it was $2,500 2 years ago or a year ago. And I'm just asking, I don't know if you guys could help me with that, with the irrigation meter. I don't know what that is, but $4,500 is at this juncture for me. I can't do it, and that makes me have to pay years and years, especially for the fact that I've overpaid. My bill used to be $80 to $90 before the pool. I paid thousands.
If you could leave your name and contact information
Okay.
up front with the lady in the business area, I'll take a look at it, see if there's something we can do to help you out.
I appreciate it. I really would appreciate it, and I'll do whatever I'll chip in something or add it to the bill. I just don't have that, and I just can't.
I understand.
I'm just gonna have to move over a water bill is absurd.
I understand.
I love my place. And that's
Let me look at our policies and say, I've got something in mind, but until I confirm it,
Okay.
and I bet John knows where I'm going. But if you would, leave your contact information with the receptionist in the business office out front.
Okay, there was only one there, right?
Yeah, the lady out at the desk that's sitting free.
Okay,
Donna, ask for Donna.
okay, and I thank you for listening to me. I just, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Hope you
You
get
know, Mr.
He'll-
Chairman,
he'll
one of these
continue.
days, somebody's gonna invent a meter for sewage, and then that problem gonna be solved. I'm pretty sure someone probably thinking about it now. For flushing, when you flush, it's actually gonna be a meter to meter that. So in that way, that's gonna solve a lot of issues.
Yeah.
But this day right here, they haven't invented it yet, so.
It drives to where I was trying to go with a base fee,
Yes,
okay, because that's kind of where we need to go.
right.
But the operating agreement is such that it's kind of hard to get there right now.
Well, right, because we're trying to stabilize ourselves, one thing, with our debt that we have, that's causing us some issues.
Does everybody agree that when you're paying for something that's not happening, that's obviously a problem? And I do understand that it's assumed because the water, if you take water, you generally gotta get rid of the water, but it's not.
As the executive director said, we don't have the capability to know what your true usage is
Right.
for household versus the pool, or versus irrigation.
Right.
And until we obtain that capability, this is the only way we can manage.
Right, but you can see $80 to $400, you can see, I got two homes, they're both in my name, and one's $11, and that was my next question really, is I have a home at 2625, these are the two homes, 2624 and 2625, right across the street, and that thing was set up with the irrigation meter when I first started building there. And I was learning how to build and everything. I did this kind of on my own, and little did I know he was going to get sick. But the whole thing is they put an irrigation meter, so there's no sewer meter there. I didn't even know this until I went up here, and they said, well, and they said, how much did you pay for that irrigation meter? I think I paid nothing.
That may have been the.
And they said that's a mistake.
Way back when. It was-
Not way back when. I built it like 9 months ago.
Uh,
It's done 9 months ago. I got all my approvals and certified. I was the builder. I read books, learned how to do it, and I built a home, and they put the meter in there because before it was, here's what happened. When I first was building, I didn't need sewer before that because I was just running it for the lawn. And then I don't think nobody ever changed it over to, so you're missing money there, I think, but I don't know. Right, because they put the meter in because it was just a lawn.
Sir, if you'll do what the executive director asks,
Yes, I am.
he'll research it.
Yeah, no, I'm fine. I'm just trying to.
Listen,
I appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, we have a presentation of employees, Mr. Harvey and,
I don't think the individual's here.
Is that him?
Okay, there you go. Commissioners, it always gives me great pleasure to do this, to award individual formally about obtaining his operator license. This map makes operation three.
Collection system, wastewater collection system.
Wastewater collection system operator. Yeah. Okay. This is your supervisor?
Yes.
Okay. Superintendent? Okay, all right. I'm gonna stand right here. Sorry, I gotta read this thing. Cindy? You get right here. The Georgia State Board of Examiners for Certification of Water and Wastewater Treatment Plant Operator and Laboratory Analyst recognized the following Joint Water Sewer Commission employee, Mr. Andrew Keith Sessions. This employee is now permitted to practice as wastewater collection system operator in the state of Georgia and is entitled to all the privileges allowed under the registration of the Act of Georgia. But all I'm saying is I will congratulate you. I'm glad that you got certified. You can do all the things you're supposed to do now anyhow. So, and plus, we want you to continue to be a great employee, so you rise up and get the rest of the certifications as well, so you can become one of the superintendents as well, okay?
Yes, sir.
You start on the ground, but you always rise to the top. So we're looking for that to happen for you, okay? Okay. Shake your hand. And got a great supervisor here, superintendent, okay? And we want to just make sure that when things are not going, talk to them, okay? Learn as much as you can from him, so when you come up, that'll make you just good. I'll work toward it. Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Picture.
Thank you.
All right. Go forward and do good things now.
What's up, you go to work?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, there it is. Make sure you got them safety toe shoes on.
That's right.
Get that superintendent, you don't have them. All right, thank you.
We're ready for committee updates. We have not had a compliance and legislative meeting. We did have a facility meeting.
We did, and we had a couple items. One item's gonna be on the agenda today for the surplus vehicles, and then we also talked with, or about the USGS saltwater intrusion, and that will be more information gathered, and we will present some more information to the full board later.
We had the, I'll go to the finance committee. We had the finance committee yesterday. We approved the surplus vehicles and the banking resolution to come forward to the commission, and we'll be acting on that later. We discussed the accounts receivable status. The finance division has been working to improve our collections, and they've been reviewing, and correct me if I don't have this exactly right, John, but we've been doing 100 accounts per day.
And that's what we're going to be ramping up to.
Okay, ramping up to
Or 100 per week.
per week, 100 per week. That's what I want to make sure I have right. That were accounts that were over 60 days overdue, and they started this process in early May, and through the end of June, they have looked at accounts with $638,400 that were overdue, and of this amount, they've collected $201,000, and they've made 78 payment arrangements. While the effort is laudable, the committee believes more needs to be done in this area, and a review of collections will be a standard monthly report for the committee, and the executive director is also going to look into process review to improve the collection process. Let's say that exactly there. Anyway, he also updated us on the enterprise update. I guess the first couple of days of going live on the enterprise, they had a full lobby both days. However, there are still some bugs to work out in the whole enterprise process of customer information. And we hired that person yet?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we've hired the person that that he told us about that he was going to hire, that was a contractor for us, getting us on that system. So we have an expert that knows the system to work through the issues. The enterprise he also informs that the enterprise has the capability to do roundup, but we need to look at how we're going to implement the roundup program to ensure we have a robust program before we put it out. And I think we'll probably be able to initiate roundup in the 2019 period, excuse me. We also are going to be working with the county on ARCO sewer grants, and try to get some grants so we can solve some of the septic issues out in the ARCO area. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later during my update. The June financial report will be discussed later on. Karen. My update, excuse me. Okay. Next is human resources. Mr. Harvey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had our Human Resource and Safety Committee meeting this morning, and a number of things we talked about. We also, one of the things we talked about was the revisions that we made during our previous meeting about our orientation. That we made, which would cause us to do something, cause the HR policies to have a number of revisions. Mr. Donahue gave us copies of how how that affected other policies by moving our open enroll, orientation. Is it orientation? What am I trying to say? Introductory period, yeah. Moving it from six to a year. So, in doing that, it affected other policies, which was which Mr. Donnie gave us an update on, and also we have brought those changes to the school board for approval. Along with that, we also discussed the employee benefit package, and during that time period, we realized that we had a discrepancy with discovery to our employees' detriment, but has been corrected. We also talked about the education assistant incentive policy, and during that discussion, we tentatively have decided that we will separate those two things, especially as far as finance, budgeting for both of those things, education assistant and also incentive policy. We're gonna rearrange that at another meeting. We talked about recruiting and of the new positions that was put on, that came on board as of 1 July. We have hired only one person for that. That's the customer information system analyst position that was we just talked about. And talking about safety and so forth, and accident stats was also presented. During that time, it was on our agenda was to look at the director of operations position, the deputy director position, and also our superintendents, and look to see if we can consolidate some of those things. So maybe eliminate one of those positions, eliminate the director of operations position. We're going to see how we can fit some of those duties the superintendent does and the duties the deputy director into, and that would come back to the Human Resources Committee at a later date. Along with that, sir, we do have one thing to bring before the full commission for adoption, and that is the HR policy revisions. And if I would, I imagine I can make a motion to bring that.
It's on here, it's number 7.
Oh, okay, all right, then, well, when we get to that, we'll do that.
Okay.
All right. Okay. That's all I have, sir.
All right, is that public information?
Mr. Chairman, the Public Information and Customer Relations Committee did meet during this period. We actually had a scheduled meeting for July the 5th, and since that was the day after the 4th of July, we moved that to an earlier date, and we met on June the 27th here in this room at 2 o'clock. There were no items for approval other than the meeting minutes from the previous meeting. We had a number of items that were for discussion only. One being the Everbridge implementation, and that Everbridge program is the texting program that we have for emergency notification. Right now, it's largely being used for boil water advisories, and that has now been, the rollout has begun, and the initial observation is that it's working well, and we're waiting to see what our experience is and hope for more data on that as it continues, but we think that's going to be a good program. We also discussed our social media campaign, website changes, and we talked about advertising and what would be good to have for advertising as well, but no decisions were made on any of those items.
Thank you. One comment on it's Everbridge. We're probably going to ask Jay to look at that as a possible way to help collections through calls for past due accounts. So that, say that if you're over a certain period of time, maybe 2 or 3 days, then you'll get a call through Everbright and see if we can, or Everbridge, and remind people to pay their bill. So that may come up to you here shortly. That was one of the nuggets that we got up at the conference. We'll talk about it a little later.
Folks are using that preemptively to make sure that their customers that are getting close to getting turned off know it's time to come do something about it before it happens.
I think it can be used for that.
Well, the folks that we listened to, Mr. Chairman, as I recall, they indicated it had helped them significantly in reducing their delinquent accounts. And apparently, many of the customers were very grateful because we're all in a busy world today, and an extra reminder doesn't hurt sometimes. Except for those of us at the golf course.
Okay, we'll go into items for approval. The first three items are the minutes for the regular meeting on the 15th, the executive session on the 15th, and the special call meeting on the 29th. So if you take a minute to look at those, and the executive minutes are coming around. I'll entertain a motion at this time for approval of the minutes of June 15th. The regular commission minutes?
Oh, you want us to do 15?
Yeah, I think, do we have to do them separately?
Okay, well, I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of the June 15, 2017 regular meeting minutes.
I second.
All in favor, please raise your right hand. Minutes are approved for the executive session. Motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor, please raise your right hand. And 29.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, all right. The minutes are approved. Okay. And next on the agenda is the Pinova Industrial Pre-Treatment Permit. Angela, Ms. Walker.
Good afternoon, everybody. This week, at this meeting, we're requesting that you approve the final permit that we have for the industries at this moment, and this is one for Pinova. The background, we're required to issue these permits to anyone who is either a significant or a categorical contributor to the wastewater plant, meaning they either treat over 25,000 gallons per day, or they discharge something that could be a danger to the plant, metals or certain other things. So currently there's 5 major contributors that distribute industrial wastewater to the Academy Creek Wastewater Treatment Plant, which requires pretreatment permits. The draft permits were completed by Brian Caldwell after a review of the local limits for the Academy Creek plant. 3 of the industrial permits have been approved by the commission on June 15, 2017. The 4th draft permit has been finalized and is included in your documentation for your review. And it's the recommendation of the staff that we put this permit into motion and start it as of August 1st, 2017.
I have a question. How many industrial pre-treatment permits do we normally have? How many businesses are there?
Since I've been here since 2014, require them to have any pretreatment.
Okay.
Now, at the conference that the executive director and I attended and some of the staff, there was a feeling that phosphorus was going to be a permit item in the very near future. We have to redo the entire permit again if it comes before 2020 or 2022.
If they give us a permit, we'll actually have to make that change. So the only thing that really would have to be changed would be that section, and then we would have to offer it up for approval of all 5, because right now their phosphorus limit is only to just report. There is no limit at this time, it's just to report it to us. They still run it, so we keep an idea of what they've got going on, but right now it's only report. So we would have to change that number, we would have to put it back out for public review, but we would not have to change the whole permit.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the permit.
I move that approval be granted to finalize the pre-treatment permit for Pine Oak with implementation to begin August 1st, 2017.
Excuse me.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion, questions, commissioners? Okay. All those in favor of approving the motion, please raise your right hand. Unanimous. It's approved. Next item is the surplus equipment. Ms. Crosby?
Good afternoon. Before you, there's a memo with a backup attachment. There are 6 vehicles that, excuse me, 5, that we're looking to surplus. They're mostly pickup trucks and 1 dump truck. The attachment will have the mileage and kind of the operational issues with each vehicle if you have any questions. But we've taken these, as the 2 committee chairmen mentioned, through finance and facilities, and they refer that here today for approval.
So how do we dispose of them then? You know, once they come surplus, then what happens?
Well, some of these we'll try and sell on Go Deals based on the mileage and what they are. But there may be one like the Mack truck, we may just have to take that to the car crusher and get scrap for that. But usually that's our first avenue, is we put it out on Go Deals. That doesn't cost us anything to put it there. And if it doesn't work there, then we'll just dispose of it to scrap usually.
Okay, all right, good deal.
Make a motion.
I make a motion that the Brunswick-Glynn Joint Water and Sewer Commission approve the item to be declared as surplus and disposed in a manner most beneficial to BGJWSC.
Second.
Okay. Further discussion, commissioners? All those in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Unanimously approved.
Thank you.
Okay. We're now to the banking resolution. Mr. Connor.
Good afternoon. In your packages, you'll find a memorandum for banking resolutions and signature cards. This is for 2 separate banking accounts. The chairman mentioned earlier that we went live with the Enterprise Customer Information System July 1st. As part of that entire transition over to our different software, we will be changing our lockbox service, which is the company that processes the checks that are put in the mail, from Click, which is actually a subcontractor for United Community, where we still maintain an account, so it's kind of a carryover from changing our bank. And we'll be changing that over to BB&T Bank, who's our current banker. It carries a number of advantages with it, but part of setting that up is having a daily sweep account where all of the individual customer checks are deposited to that account as they come in during a day, and at the end of the day, there's a bulk transfer from that account to our main checking accounts. The second account is to establish a SPLOST account, and this is to physically segregate the SPLOST payments that we're receiving from Glynn County into a separate account. And then as we make authorized expenditures on SPLOST projects, we will reimburse ourselves for those expenditures from that account. And so, staff recommends that the chairman, vice chairman, executive director, and director of finance be authorized to execute the necessary documents to establish a lockbox sweep account and a SPLOST revenue account, both with BB&T Bank.
further discussion? Got a motion?
I move that JWSC authorize the chairman, vice chairman, executive director, and director of finance be authorized to execute the necessary documentation to establish a lockbox sweep account and a SPOS revenue account with BB&T Bank.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion, Commissioners? Questions? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Okay. All right, amendments to the Human Resources Policy.
You also have this memorandum in your packages today. As you'll recall, the evaluation and compensation policies of the JWSC were changed by the Commission last April. Two of the major changes in that were the extension of the probationary period from 6 months to 1 year. And with that change, a quarterly benchmark review with the employees during that first year of their employment. And second was allowing employees a pool of 30 hours of sick time and 30 hours of vacation time at the time of hire, and to be earned in normal, available to them to take, but to be earned in normal accruals, which takes about 8 months. Those changes necessitated some technical changes and some additions to the HR policy. So I'll go through these very quickly. We did go through these with the HR committee this morning as well. The first change is in the definitions, and it changes the introductory period from 6 months to 1 year. The second one is in reemployment, and again, this is a change from 6 months to 1 year, that's section 3.3-1. In section 3.4, this references the 30 hours of sick time, and the change from 6 months to 1 year in paragraph 1. In paragraph 2, it references the quarterly basis for the review of the benchmarks and annual performance at the end of the 1 year period, rather than it was previously at 2 months or 5 months. The next one, also in section 3.4, is the quarterly evaluation during the introductory period by the supervisors. Section 3.5 has a change from 1 year to 6 months to 1 year. And sections 4.2 and 4.3 are pretty much the same changes. It references the 30 hours of available sick time and available vacation time to the employee at hire. And then the paragraph 3A in both of these sections addresses that if the employee doesn't stay with us long enough to have earned those, or if they took more time than they have earned at the time of their termination of employment, that amount would be withheld from their final paycheck in accordance with FLSA guidelines. And the next one is section 4.4, and this addresses a different issue actually. With the Christmas holidays, we have Christmas Eve and Christmas off, and those fall on a weekend. There's some question about which days will be observed when. So the Christmas holidays falling over a weekend will be observed at the discretion of the executive director. And then paragraph C, an observation calendar will be prepared and posted by July 15th of each year to say which days are being observed. Section 4.14, again reference changes 6 months to 12 months. Section 6.2 addresses the CPI that was the COLA determined by the CPI that is the compensation policy. The pay plan of the JWSC will also be adjusted by the same CPI as the actual salaries of employees. So the pay plan and employee salaries move at the same rate each year. And paragraph 3C is the COLA would be made effective in the first full pay period of the fiscal year, of the month of July of the fiscal year. This D is changed to when an employee receives their evaluation further on during the year, that any pay increase will be reflected in the period that their anniversary date fell. We have a 2-week pay period, so if it falls on the second day of that pay period, it's effective in that pay period, or if it falls on the 13th day of that pay period, it's effective for that whole period. And then there are a couple of changes. First, in paragraph E, the fourth sentence down at the end, there's one change from merit to step. There's a second change that was noted this morning where merit should be changed to step in paragraph E. Paragraph F is a new paragraph. The changes, the COLA and the increases in the pay grades are at the discretion of the commission as part of the budgeting process for the year. Section 6.2, for the other adjustments, employees eligible to receive increases annually, and that takes out the 6-month evaluation. That, again, that was done with the extension of the probationary period. Performance evaluation 7.1. This changes the annual, the 2-5 and annual adjust for reviews to quarterly during the first year, and then annually going on beyond that. And another change from 6 months to 1 year in the probationary period. Then section 7.12, in the title of paragraph 7, merit review dates, merit needs to be removed from that. The paragraph 7C is a new paragraph, and again, merit should be removed from that first part of that sentence. So as part of the evaluation process, employees are to put together a sheet of what they feel their accomplishments and progress towards goals are before their actual review by their supervisor. And then the final change on section 7.5 changes 6 months to 1 year. I believe legal counsel has had a chance to review these. The Human Resources Committee of the JWSC have reviewed these changes and recommended the approval of the changes to the policy of the JWSC, and the actual motion has upon being reviewed by legal counsel.
Mr. Chairman, also, this came out of my committee meeting, and we discussed this quite thoroughly, and also before we started implementing these changes, we had discussion on changing the introductory period to a year, which resulted in the changes that happened to this HR policy, the other sections of the HR policy. So that would necessitated us doing this. So if there are no other questions, I'll make a motion.
Okay.
Unless you got some questions before I do that.
I'll go ahead and make a motion, then just add to the end of your motion, then put the edits that were noted in
Yes.
Human Resources.
Yes, sir. I move that Brunswick-Glynn Joint Board and Sewer Commission approve the changes, and also the changes that have been noted as well, presented by Mr. Donahue, to the human resources policies of the JWSC, subject to the policy language being reviewed by our legal counsel.
I second.
Okay. Have a second. Further discussion, commissioners? Anyone? If there's no further discussion, all those in favor, please raise your right hand.
Good work. It was.
Thank you. Okay, we now have the end of June, month-end financial comparative.
Begin with the balance sheet, and before the yearly statements, these are the budgetary statements as of June 30th. As we go into the audit process, these numbers will change, some of them during the audit process, because we have a number of adjustments and accruals that we make only at year end. So some of these numbers will move around as far as the final audit report. The first item I'd like to note is the cash and cash equivalents of June 30th of 2017, $1.74 million. On the last day of the fiscal year, June 30th, we received $939,000 in capital improvement fees, which were deposited to our general revenue account. So of that 1.4 million, 939,000 will be transferred to the capital improvement funds, leaving approximately $535,000 of actual operating cash at year end. Second is the bond fund has, bond sinking fund has decreased down to, from previous months, down to $320,000. That's actually the first deposit towards the December 31st and June 30th of 2018 principal and interest that were deposited with the trustee. We paid $2,020,000 in principal and $978,000 of interest on June 30th towards the bond. Our total bond indebtedness right now is $37,515,000 after that payment. The next item is about halfway down in the restricted cash accounts. You see that there's a line item for the SPLOST account, an accounting entry for that of $368,000, which was the first SPLOST payment that was received from Glynn County. Then another comment on this is last year, at year end, we had $2.278 million of accounts payable under the current liabilities. As of these statements, it was $952,000. So that's somewhat of a timing thing, but we do have less receivables or payables this year. Again, that's a number that will probably creep up because we do hold the books open much longer to get all the unpaid liabilities into the general ledger for the audit purposes. On the second page is the list supplemental schedule of our cash balances at the year end. And again, the $1.35 million in our revenue deposit account includes those capital improvement fees that we received on the last day of the year. And then you see the SPLOST account of $368,000. Moving on to the...
Excuse me, John, if I could ask you, back on the first page, before we leave that page, I'm looking at the unbilled revenue,
Yes, sir.
and would the assumption be correct that that's that would be the service that's been provided that's less than 30 days old, and we have not, that we know we're going to bill for that, and we haven't billed it yet?
It sort of. Actually, what it represents, we bill every day of the week, every work day of the week. So at year end, if somebody's bill is normally read on the 15th of the month, we have to take how much was billed on the 15th of July, and assume that half of that was for June and half of that was for July. We have to make that split as of June 30th. It's one of those entries that we make only at year end. So, so if somebody is billed on the 20th of the month, 2/3 of their bill is in June, and 1/3 of it's in July. It's just a cutoff procedure that the auditors require.
Why is the amount the same?
Pardon?
That's what I
Why
was
is the
wondering.
amount the same?
The amounts are the same for 2016 and
That's one of the
2017.
entries that we haven't billed out everything for. We're only in the middle of July now, so we haven't billed out all of those things to have the numbers to generate the entry for that. So the number from last year is carried over. Once we have all of the, everyone billed through the end of July, then we can take all of those billings and compute the amount that should be recorded on June 30th of this year.
So it's a placeholder, basically. And for 2017, we're using last year's number in the placeholder.
Yeah.
So last year, June the 30th, that's not a placeholder, that was actual at the time.
That was actual at that time.
And we're mirroring that for 2017.
Yes, the year end, that's one of those entries we make just at year end for accounting purposes for the cutoff at June 30th. That number, once we've got all of the billings for for July, we'll compute that amount and make the journal entry to do that.
Okay, thank you.
And then that number will carry over to what you see as the preliminary June 30th report for 2018.
2018, after we know what it is for 2017. And then the item above, the accounts receivable, the $2,358,000. Now, does that reflect the monies that have been, that we have accumulated here recently with the new
Yes, sir, that's-
program where,
Yes, any of the.
with delinquent accounts?
Any of what that number represents is our total accounts receivable, without regard to how old they are, less than allowance for what we would not collect from that. And then allowance for bad debts, essentially. And so the amount that's been collected against those bad debts would have already reduced those receivables down to the amount still owed.
So I think I heard in Chairman Elliott's report from the Finance Committee meeting that somewhere around $250,000 that has been collected now. So would that number then be 200, roughly, in reality, 250,000 less, and the cash equivalent's 250 higher?
No, sir, that's the actual number as of, that number has been adjusted for June 30th. We run an accounts receivable aging out of our billing software that lists all of the accounts that still owe us money, or in some cases, we have small credit balances on accounts. But and the age is at the current 30, 60, 90, and over 120. And that is the true number.
So that's the true
It was
number.
over to us at June 30th. Plus the estimated allowance for bad debts.
And we're hopeful that that program's gonna clear that number out, essentially, and add cash.
Significantly reduce it, yes. But the net that you see on here may not be reduced much because then we have a $32 million budget, which over 12 months is about $3 million a month. So we're going to have probably $1.5 million to $2 million of outstanding billings that customers haven't met their due date on, even if everything was actually current.
Because
If
of
we
my,
bill $1.5 million from the 15th of June until the end of June, the customers don't have to pay that till July, so it's still technically outstanding.
Thank you.
Okay. I also noticed that, I didn't notice it yesterday, customer deposit reserve last year, and the one that you've shown for end of June is the same amount as is the deferred pension outflows. Is that because we don't know them yet?
Well, the deposit reserve, we fund that periodically based on how much our deposits are, our customer deposit liability is. We have a separate cash account for those and a separate liability for deposits due to customers. And we make sure that those two are closed so that we have sufficient funds so that if we have to pay back all of the deposits at once, there's enough money to do that. And we make periodic transfers to keep those numbers close.
But, okay, we have customers, and then we have meters that we bill by. Does Enterprise track the number of customers and the number of meters? Okay, can we start showing at the top, you know, the number of customers and number of meters from, in this case, it will be June of 2017 versus July of 2018, the next time we do it?
I can give you the number of services, billable service addresses. Each one customer may have several service addresses that they pay for.
Yeah, but that's not gonna give you a common denominator, is it? If I ask you basically by residential customer, what is the average usage or median usage?
Yes, and that would really need to be by service address. Especially for landlords where they may own 3 or 4 houses, we would need.
Yeah, that would be customers, but you'd have a meter for each address,
Yeah,
right?
there'd be a meter for each of those addresses too.
Unless you had a
Unless a master-
properties, you had a master meter supplying all 2 or 3 houses.
Yeah,
Because they were sequential.
It would still show up as just one. You wouldn't know what the average bill is what you're saying, because it would be an outline.
But if you knew how many separate addresses were being sustained by a given meter, you may be able to work it out. And then you need to parse out whether an address is residential or commercial as well.
Well, I'd like that kind of data as part of the finance report. So if we can have that in the minutes, is that what we have in August?
We can work on putting together to put which data, or what the data sets are, and then pull that information forward.
It looks like accrued salaries and vacation also has the same numbers.
Yes, sir, that's one of the adjustments that hasn't been made as yet. Those accrued salaries, unearned revenues, and several of those we'll be making over the next couple of weeks in preparation for the auditors to get here.
Okay, you want to go on to the next page?
Yes, sir. Next page, the commission reports our revenues and expenditures for the entire fiscal year. The top half, page 1 is the total revenues. You see, we 2017 budget was just over 28 million. We actually finished the year about $1.57 million over that. As far as most $735,000 of that comes from the customer charges, which are the first 4 lines: water revenues, sewer revenues, and administration charges. Those were approximately $735,000 greater than budgeted. The net fees, and this is the fees for the labor materials for installing meters. And that's directly tied to the amount of capital or operational, capital improvement fees that are collected. And that's approximately $465,000 more than budgeted this year. And then going to page 3 of 4, this The next pages are the expenditures by division. At the bottom of page 3 of 4, the next one from the bottom line, the net revenue or loss before capital revenues is just over $651,000. This is the amount of our revenues over those expenditures that it takes for us to operate, including payment of debt principal, capital expenditures, and deposits to our reserves. So we actually finished with revenues of $651,000 more than we had to expend for this year. The next line down is the capital revenues. This includes the capital improvement fees for new taps. It also includes the SLOSS funds that we received of $2.58 million, which gives us a net revenue for the year of $4.2 million. On the operational side, it came up very close to out of a $28 million budget, $600,000 is pretty close.
Last year, we didn't have any carryover.
We were 250 in the red.
Year before was less than that.
So John, I'm studying the report here, trying to understand a little bit. So the commission report, first page 1 of 4, we have the total for total operating revenue, $29,646,000.
Yes.
Then we have the total for the administration expenses,
Yes.
$4,291,000.
Yes.
And the next section, which is $309,000, what is that one?
That's the facilities and security division. That doesn't have any history going back because that's been a newly established division last year.
So they get added into the 300 and.
So they're included in the actual expenditure total. But this division, even though it doesn't have any budget for this year, was actually funded in all of the other operating divisions because there were building supplies, personnel, purchase building, maintenance, and that type of thing throughout all of the other divisions. And we didn't go back and amend the budget to reclassify those funds as monies for the facilities division itself. We do for 2018 have a separate operating budget for both the facilities division and the newly created public information division.
And so below facilities and security, we have sewer.
This is the systems pumping and maintenance. That's actually the collection system for a total of $11.528 million, 5.29.
And then we have water on page 3.
Sewer division and the water division for $3.3 million, $283,000 of expenditures. Then their general expenditures, so insurance, interest, amortization, and so on, is $3.1 million, which gives us the $6.7 million of revenues over actual expenditures of the vendors. And then we had additional cash needs to pay the debts, pay the $2,020,000 of bond principal last June. We have to, and then the capital expenditures for equipment and that type of thing. And the $3.8 million that went into the repair and replacement and capital reserves.
And so total operating expenses are almost 23 million. And it looks like sewer is half of that, 11 and a half, which would be the big ticket item. Do we have any idea how three plants operate relative to one another? Let's say, can you look at operating expenses for Academy and Dunbar and Exit 29 on a per million gallon basis separately?
We don't have the expenses captured in that much detail.
We just roll them all up, or do we? Is there a way to see how the plants are operating in relationship to one another? I mean, I know two are much smaller than Academy.
Not directly from an expenditure standpoint.
What, maybe the measurable could be dollars per million gallons. That's typically the kind of numbers that are used in the industry to measure the efficiencies of different plants. Remember too that the technologies are different in the plants that we own, so there's a good bit, it's not just the magnitude of the plants, it's also the technology that's employed. So you're going to see differences. It won't be apples and apples, is what I'm trying to get at. But that is a means to track efficiencies at a plant, and a good measurable or metric to try to, target to make improvements.
That sounds like a good suggestion. Could we see maybe
I've got
dollars
this
per million
position.
gallons?
I've got this position, huh?
Could we maybe see those numbers, maybe in the next meeting in dollars per?
Maybe we need to go with John.
Didn't we all do it in districts? Didn't we find out part of it in districts, North Main Line, South Main Line?
I was thinking, we're talking about by the plant itself, so let's just look at the three plants and work up. We'll set a meeting up and try to.
Yeah,
pull
big
some
numbers
together.
as opposed to every district, I think.
No, I don't know how you break it by district.
Yeah.
You're talking about by the treatment
By the
plants.
plant.
No, I can't, there'd be no way to break it down into districts. We can look at the plant's performance and cost and come up with those numbers.
Thank you. I'd like to see it.
Okay.
I was done with the report, unless anybody else, if somebody has any other questions.
Yeah, but one question. You said we received $900K for capital improvement fees, okay? And out of that, we said that we're gonna hire these positions out of that, the engineer and so forth like that. Have we got to that yet? We said,
We're in the process.
excuse me?
We're in the process, huh?
I think there was miscommunication. I don't think he said.
I'm not sure.
No, my question was, have we started the process by hiring these engineers and the other positions that we said we would use the capital improvement fees to hire for those positions? That's what we said we would use that money for.
Those are positions still that are being advertised right now.
Okay. But we're using only those funds there for those positions, all right? That's what we said we were gonna do.
Some of these funds, yes, some capital improvement fee funds, some repair and replacement funds, and some funds generated from developers and builders.
So some of their work will be capitalized, some of their work will go straight to, be paid directly by developer fees because their duties are split. But the intent is to pull their activities that are not supporting the rest of the utility off of the ratepayers' costs.
Right, that's the reason why we said we were hiring because of that. That's one of the main reasons.
Yes.
That's why I'll make sure that we do that instead of bringing those people on with our general fund paying for all that stuff. Because we said the capital improvement would pay for those new positions that come on board. That's what we said. Okay.
Now, on these reports, are we gonna actually see that? That, those salaries are being paid from those areas?
I hope so.
Let us think about how to present that. Yeah, it can be done, we just need to create a format that makes it easy to understand.
Yeah, we can report on that.
The data will be there.
Well, now, in enterprise as a project,
the module.
Module, right?
Yes.
Will that capture that information?
Perhaps. I can't answer that.
Well, let's ask the new person we hired that's supposed to be
Part-
proficient on that.
I'm sorry, Commissioner. The mechanisms that we were talking about, we've been discussing how we would track the charges for each employee's time. And what we came up with was working through Cindy, through Redora,
The timekeeping mechanisms.
through their timekeeping, to be able to track that breakdown of what these people do, such that we can back bill it to the various sources. If it's a capital project, we'll be able to track it to that project.
Okay.
If it's a specific developer's plans, we'll be able to track it back to the fees for developer reviews. But we've got a mechanism set in place to track the time and make sure it goes to the right funding source.
Okay.
I think, Commissioner, to your point, we have some project reporting in the financials, and there are other modules that supplement that we're working in the development group with Harris on. And one of the things that we asked them about in one of their development meetings 2 months ago was the ability to track forced labor materials for projects.
Okay. Well, I know that there was webinar on it this week
Yeah.
that we couldn't attend. The executive director could not attend. I couldn't attend either. But we just need to kind of get all this stuff in place.
Yes.
Because we're stepping off into
Yes.
new territory, and we're going to need a lot of financial data, a little bit more than this. It's a lot of the ratios we've been asking for that we haven't gotten, and a lot of other stuff. So, you know, the finance division's going to have to step it up on providing us what I would term financial management information on which the direction of this organization goes. I mean, dollars and cents on the balance sheet, okay, but that doesn't really tell you what you're doing in an organization.
I agree.
Commissioners, any other discussion on this? Okay, we're now to the executive director's update. Mr. Executive Director.
Sorry, I was. I understand. Two major things to talk about this week. We did do our SPLOST update for the SPLOST Oversight Committee yesterday. I can repeat what we've done. We've got two major projects. The one that helps the North Mainland Sewer Basin. We divided it up into basically 4 phases in a pre-SPLOST phase or project that will set up the phase 1 of the main SPLOST project. We went through the activities going on there. We have set the pre-SPLOST project up, which is to run a force main that will bypass our largest lift station, 4005, taking the flows from 4048, lift station 4048, and going to gravity lines that feed directly to the plant, which will relieve us from having to do upgrades on 4005 to basically fix a chain of lift stations and lines upstream of it to make the project phase 1 viable. That project's going to commence construction on August 15. Takes 120 days, should be done by November 2017. Phase 1 of this project, which is the design build project that we're doing to free up capacity from the North Mainland down the eastern corridor where it currently flows, and release a significant number of initial taps to get the folks that are frozen out right now back in business and constructing, while we at the same time are doing initial evaluations and analysis of the geotechnical requirements and the planning for where we're going to route the phase 2 and phase 3 aspects of the project concurrently. We hope to be going to hiring our detailed engineering out during the fall after some conceptual is done, and get to the point where we're ready to rectify or square that up and jump off. One of the things we've got going on, we talked to the Oversight Committee, and Alan Hours was there for this meeting. We mentioned to them that on the phase 3 of the North Mainland project, there's some concern about where the expansion of the Canal Road, Harry Driggers Boulevard will take place. So we need to make sure that we coordinate with them and they understand that. So that may be a linchpin holding us or slowing us up or whatever if we can't get that resolved before we start detailed engineering on the phase 3. The other piece that we talked about was the downstream portion of the project that was not included in SPLOST, that was to be funded with a bond issue we've mentioned before that we've got to take out this fall, that will allow us to remediate and expand some of the downstream assets that are worn out, decrepit, or just undersized generally. As I understand it, my vague understanding is that the initial project request is for SPLOST money were bigger and incorporated a lot of this work, but as a result of the other demands on the SPLOST funds, we got what we got. So we're going to have to come up with a difference to do that downstream portion ourselves. There was a little bit of debate about that. We talked about the other project, which is the lift station 4003 dismantling and putting in new gravity lines, which will essentially free up capacity and provide better reliability for the greater downtown and city of Brunswick areas. It's a large area that's covered by this particular lift station. We're currently looking at some temporary package lift station that we're going to employ there, but what the project will do is to eliminate this older structure that's basically seen its best days and needs to be replaced. But instead of going back with another lift station, we're going to go back with a gravity line, which eliminates the mechanical aspects of failure and increases capacity and bring that flow straight to the Academy Creek plant. We stressed again that in the budgeting for that particular project was $6.8 million. We got 3.3. We got what we could get. So again, we're going to take this bond issue and make up the difference. Conceptual work is going on to verify that 6.8. That number's getting a little bit long in the tooth, and we want to make sure we've got a good number before we go to the market to try to borrow. That's it. That's the coverage for the project update we gave you yesterday. Did I miss anything that we talked about? You got it all? The other item that I wanted to cover today was just a quick update that I gave in the HR committee. We'll maybe have something more, or we will have something more definitive to say about it later today. We've been through the interviews and through the reviews of candidates and conducted interviews, and I'm at the point I have selected my deputy executive director candidate to be offered the position. We're going to, in the executive session, go over, what led to this decision, why we've got to have this individual. But big news, should be a big help to the organization, should be freeing up and get some of the more progressive projects that we need to do to make us a better utility moving forward in the very near future. That's my summary, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Any questions this time? This is the chairman's update. The executive director and I went to the Georgia Association of Water Professional Conference that was held in Savannah on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday morning of this week, the last couple of days. It's an annual event, and I've been to the Georgia Rural Water Association conferences that they have at Jekyll Island, and I've been to this conference. And I think that the utilities that attend this conference are more akin to what we are and strive to be in terms of how large we are and how we manage. Most of them are larger than we are, which is a benefit because they will probably have run into almost every problem that we'll come up with. And I'm not so sure that the facility in Wayne County has the same issues that we do. And that's not it's just a difference of the type of environment we're in, not so much anything else. I believe in conferences because, in my opinion, they allow the attendees to broaden their perspectives on things. You see a lot of the new technology that the various vendors are marketing out there, and you can look at it, and of course, you know, it's like every salesman, but you kind of have to look at it and put it in perspective and look at what you're doing, and at some point, you know, you want to change your technology, but you want to know who all's out in the marketplace selling you whiz-bang things that you may or may not want. It takes a lot of detailed look afterwards to actually choose a technology. I'm going to talk about this a little more, but I'm going to just describe it to you. If you look at technology in things, technology as it is rolled out starts off with high prices, very few users. And then over the life of that technology expands down, there are more users, and the cost comes down. And then you get to the useful life of the technology, and there's still a lot of users, but you have a technology that is coming behind it, which is in the same spot. And you have to pick a technology and work within that window and use it to your best advantage. I'll talk more about this later on my visions of things that we need to do here and where we need to go. But that kind of look at this stuff that was presented in the various sessions that we had, and then also by the vendors, is what I think is really important for a conference. And the other things that you get to do, you meet other people that are dealing with generally the same issues you are, and you can get their perspective on how they've solved those issues. So it's very important for networking. I met people from Macon, I met people from Cobb County, and you know, I think Jimmy got a whole list of people that he can make contacts with to talk with. So it's important from that standpoint. Also, the people that attended the conference with the executive director and myself were Kurt Young, Derek Simmons, and Todd Klein. I would like next year's conference that all the superintendents attend so that they can have that benefit that we got. Okay, I've provided you some of the information that I collected that I thought may be of interest to you, and I'm going to kind of go through it now if you want to kind of pull that out. First item is the need for clarification of the water and natural resources narrative water quality standard. And this was provided to us by an attorney, and it deals with a court case that's going on in Wayne County with Rainier. And as you can read, the Altima Riverkeeper sued to Rainier because the waters that they returned back to the Altima River did not meet the standard that was published, and which says all water shall be free from material related to municipal, industrial, or other discharges which produce turbidity, color, odor, or other objectionable conditions which interfere with legitimate water usage. And initially, the administrative law judge
ruled in favor of the water keeper. And that would be a very high standard for any utility to meet. And you can see in the paragraph, the administrative law judge said if that's what they meant, then they shouldn't have written it this way, which leaves no room for misunderstanding. As the lawyer said, anybody can object to the odor and color of the water and say there's something wrong. Well, the Superior Court overturned that and said that the administrative law judge prohibits unreasonable interference, meaning that the way the Superior Court read it is this is an unreasonable amount of turbidity, color, odor, or other objectionable conditions. And that's being appealed to the Georgia Court of Appeals, and that's where the status is right now. I'll let you read that on your own. And then there's a paper here on the cost of water is rising, and Philadelphia has an unprecedented plan to make it more affordable. And this really kind of gets into charging water rates based on income levels. I don't know where that's going to go, but we need to be aware and kind of monitor it. It's nothing really for action, but you can read through it and see what they're looking at. I just think it's things that we need to be aware of that maybe go on, because once it finally gets into one area, it'll start to migrate to others, if it does. And there's a pamphlet on V-SCADA, which I've provided you, which is probably the next generation. We're not sure yet of what we're going to look at for our SCADA system. And you can kind of get some idea from the vendors' documentation and marketing material of where they see us going in SCADA. And this will be probably within the next couple of years something really hot to talk about. And then the next thing I provided you was the step system from Orenco. And we're going to look at this and see if this is applicable for the issue of sewer systems in Glynn County. Essentially, if you look on the second page, and you'll see a diagram that says the biotube pump vault. The only thing that an existing septic system that has a failing drain field has to do is drop that into the septic system and then attach the line, and we would have to put in a 4-inch force main that it would feed into, and we would draw what's called the liquor, which is the water lock. And the reason why I think the step system and this would be the way. Let me explain to you two things. First of all, I initially objected to this system because of an MOU the county signed, in which the county signed up to be responsible for pumping the sludge and performing the maintenance on the pump device, step system. Right. And that's kind of what the issues were with the peninsula that we talked about, and we kind of worked through that last month. But this one, we would not assume any more responsibility than what the current homeowner has. The current homeowner has the responsibility to pump his sludge and what he puts in it. The sludge has to be pumped, and then the pump is good for about 15 years, and the replacement pump, according to them, had about a 15-year life.
Yeah, what they said was, you got a 5-year warranty for the pump and the system. If you wanted a 10-year for an extra $50, you got a 10-year warranty or an extra 5, total of 10 for the life of that thing. The one moving part you have in it, the little pump that they have that pumps the gray water, is a $400 or $500 component. Quick and easy, just a little modular pump about this big that I'm not even sure if you need somebody else to help you install it. It's really, really simple plumbing.
Well, I guess my question would be is, we ran away from Peninsula Bluff so fast, why would we even think about something like this?
Okay, the reason,
Because there was a
Go ahead.
strong difference, because Peninsula had us taking care of the sludge that accumulates in the septic tank through that agreement. What we're proposing is, folks that have septic tanks that are failing, put these in. Now, you're still responsible for that sludge, but the gray water, once you pump it into our force main, we'll take care of the gray water. They had, or we were taking care of a private asset. This is different.
Oh,
animal.
I remember, I don't recall that. I thought, that's something like that could have been worked out. We ran from that.
We did. In fact,
We
that's what
ran
we-
from that step system so fast.
Well,
that's correct, we did.
In fact,
And my
we
reason
did
for
work
running
that
for it
out.
was exactly what Jimmy said.
Yeah, but you could have worked that out.
we have worked it out.
Yeah, that we're,
Well,
We're just gonna take care of the water, but we're still
There
running
were
from
two
it.
issues on Peninsula. One, we didn't
We're
have
not
a
pumping out
line.
private assets.
but we could have worked that out. We had no interest in working it out. We had no interest of gaining additional customers or whatever. We ran. Said, you guys go back to septic systems. We want nothing to do with these
One-
steps.
We probably need to take this up elsewhere, but it wasn't about the septic.
Yeah.
There was a bigger issue.
Anyway, we started a little bit, but that's what we got at the system. We'll talk about it some more. But okay. For the open meeting, do we have any other comments or questions or things that we want to take up, commissioners? Okay. Can I have a motion to move into executive session?
Make a motion to move into executive session. I second.
One other question, do we have anything that will require a vote?
Not that I know of.
Okay. Then all those in favor of moving into executive, please raise your right hand. We're now in executive session. We'll start in 5 minutes at 15:38.
We have to sit down.
That's
Years
right.
ago.
That's right. Okay, do I have a motion to come out of executive session?
I make a motion, we come out of executive session.
Okay, I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please raise your right hand. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Everybody in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Have a wonderful day.
All right. Mr. John, I need